Welcome to the Conceive, Believe, and Achieve podcast, where we delve into the minds of elite athletes and coaches to uncover their secrets behind their success. I'm your host, Sean Garris, former university wrestling coach, D1 wrestler, national champion, Olympic trials medalist, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, three-time world team coach in grappling, and author. Join me as we explore the realms of training, mindset, goal setting, overcoming adversity, and various coaching methodologies in the world of sports. Welcome back to part 2 of our insightful journey into leadership with the University of Michigan's swim coach, Jim Richardson. In this continuation, we delve deeper into the pool of wisdom as Coach Richardson shares more invaluable lessons drawn from his extensive experience. Get ready to dive into this sea of inspiration.
Talent is not as important as effort and attitude, as we've said before.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Watch out when you get talent with great attitude and great character. Watch out there. They're going to do things that, and when they do, everybody wins with them. There's none of this, well, you should have seen them on Friday night. None of that. It's like, I'm so glad they got it. They deserved it. They deserved it, and we're a better team because of them. All of us probably swim faster because of the example they set.
I've seen teams like that where they're just talented people, but the attitudes are, it's a kiss for.
Well, I mean, you can win. You can win like that, and there's some administrations that, when they're out of bounds, don't worry, we'll bury it. We have a relationship with the police, and so it won't hit the papers. We'll bury it, and we'll continue to win. And so because that's the most important thing to us is we've got to win championships. So, and there are lots of places like that.
It sounds like, as we're talking here, and through most of the talks that I've had with you, is that it's important to win. But it's more important to be a better person.
How you go about winning in the sports arena. Well, you're going to be challenged to win once you leave sports and what you choose to do with your life to find meaning and purpose. See, a lot of people in sport can be really good without having any purpose in them because they have talent. But once you leave that arena and that talent doesn't transfer into anything in the real world, okay, if your purpose is winning at any cost, that will reveal itself where you go. That'll reveal itself, and the consequences often are not good. But if your purpose is, I want to make a difference, I want to leave a mark, I want to make it a better place for having been here, then you're never, and if you can develop a level of competency in whatever field you go into, by studying and learning and making errors and correcting, you're never going to have to worry about somebody saying, hey, have you ever considered doing this? Would you like to come with us and do it with us? And those people thrive. They continue to thrive. The apex of their career was not their athletic career. It was beyond that. So, and you see a lot of athletes today, pro athletes, who they make a difference in their communities. I mean, they're Blake Corum here.
Love the kid.
The things he's done in the community, and just over and above. And there are others too who you don't ever find out about because they don't want it to be broadcast. They just want to stay below the radar and help people. And I'm sure there are several of them here, and there are a lot of them around the country that are like that. They're doing that. Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is like if you're everything you do in sport, the attitude that you bring to it will transfer to the vocation you pick or wherever you go in life. And if you develop the poor forward, it's going to fall in, and it could cost you. But in my vocation, if you have that attitude, it'll be found out real quick, and you're done. Right?
Under pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, your vocation, good gosh, lives depend on it.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about pressure. I mean, that's kind of the Navy SEAL thing, too, is you put them under pressure. You found out who's a team guy and who's an IME guy. And they're not interested in IME guys.
Yeah.
They wash them out if they can.
Because it's not about the team. It's not about. And in that situation, you're going out into a potentially harmful situation, and it's an IME guy that's going to do everything. Well, I'm going to do the task so that I can be recognized. I'm going to do this so that I can get recognition from my superiors or whatever. But in turn, you may be causing, some turmoil to the team. You could cause somebody their lives, but still, you come on top and you let's say kill it, but
There was a study done a few years ago where they queried Navy SEALs about why they were there. And of course, everybody was, you saw to promote my career, to be toughest guy on the planet. The predominant response for those who made it through BUDS and made it into the SEALs was, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to make a difference in other people's lives. Now, where does that play in when you're uncomfortable and you're wet and you're cold and you're being washed over by waves and you got sand all over you and you haven't slept? Where does that come in? Why am I here? It's not for me. It's not for me. It's for the difference I want to make in the world. And that's a powerful, powerful reason. It's more powerful than I want to put another stripe on my shoulder. I want to put a trident on me. That's cheap stuff. It's cheap stuff, in my opinion, and the research kind of revealed that.
I think you see, like, even in athletes, some of the athletes that people worship. You see the athletes that are kind of, displaying poor attitudes. They have a following, but there's not much. Let's say Taylor Swift, right? That individual, her as an individual, her personality, what she does for the community, what she does. I don't know if you know this, but when she came to Toronto, wherever she went to, she was giving our law enforcement officers free tickets to her conference. Not just one or two, it's the whole service. Spoke volumes about one of her values, spoke volumes about the person she is, but she does that all the time. She's not doing that to create fandoms. She's doing that because the person she is. When you see somebody like, I'm not going to say it, they'll probably get ducked, but a poor celebrity that is, just trying to get attention through other means. They're small, but it's not as much as this young girl from, where is she from? The Christmas tree singer there. I don't remember where she's actually from. But again, the values that she's displaying has gained her that fame, as well as music. Of course, she's a great singer, great musician. But because of that, I think, and I think that works in any degree.
Yeah, I've always kind of admired Charles Barkley because he made a statement one time. Look, parents, I'm not a role model. I'm a professional basketball player. Don't turn me into a role model. Okay? I'm honest. I'll tell you what I think. It may be unfiltered sometimes, but don't turn me into a role model. And I think that was a good caution for parents with respect to having athletes or entertainers as being a role model of some kind. I mean, a lot of these people haven't had a lot of education. And yet they feel free to, opine about this and that and the other, and everybody thinks because it came out of their mouth, it must be so. It's kind of like the internet. Well, I read it on the internet. It's got to be true, The best role models in a person's life should be the parents and grandparents. That's the way they should be, not only teaching the values, but living them. So they see those values played out in the lives of people who love them. And that's the best we can hope for, because our institutions, it'd be nice to say every teacher that they're going to come across has great values. It's not true. It'd be nice to say that every pastor, priest is going to have great values. Not true. The most important ones are the parents. Absolutely the most, parents and grandparents.
We spoke, I think, the first podcast about the lack of role models in some kids' families. You were a teacher in your city school, I believe.
We were taught in two formerly all-black schools that had been integrated. So they were in black neighborhoods, but the white kids were bused in.
Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of single-parent homes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Government housing projects. Yeah.
And for some of those kids in those areas, and of course I've worked in areas like that, the lack of role models can be very, very impactful on their lives, and it will sometimes affect the trajectory of their lives and the choices they make.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the longer I taught there, the more I realized it really wasn't a racial thing. It's not a racial thing. It may be socioeconomic, but definitely how you were mentored at home. I had some kids who came from the projects, and the person who held them in line was the grandmother, not the mother. It was the grandmother, because the mother had some out-of-bounds behaviors, and the grandmother stepped in, and she took over rearing those kids. And you always knew it on the first PTA night, because those grandmothers show up. And they would tell you, Mr. Richardson, here's my phone number. If anything goes wrong, call me first, and I'll take care of it. And they were true to their word. But I never had to do it for any of them, because those kids knew from a young age, I don't want to make my grandma mad. I don't want to disappoint her. And then you've got some kids who come from really wealthy, Caucasian backgrounds, but they're entitled, and they've been entitled all their lives. And they probably have talked back to their parents and not suffered any repercussion for it. And they've been given everything. So try to discipline them. They don't know what discipline is. They've been disciplined at home. And so when you do that, it's never their fault. It's your fault. So, it's just my observation from having been in that environment. And, some of it certainly is personality. If you've got kids who are really aggressive and they've been reared in a rough environment, those kids, it's tough. It's tough to touch their hearts emotionally. But that's, in my opinion, that's the only thing that's going to change them until they have a change of heart that's tied to something emotional. You can show them the statistics. You can talk about if you graduate or you don't graduate, what your trajectory is going to be. That doesn't matter. And all those kids, they need to have friends. They need to have friends. And I mean, the worst, criticism, just that a black kid in the projects could get would be called an Oreo. You're black on the outside, but you're really white inside. And those kids, generally speaking, spoke very good English. They always came to school as neatly dressed as they could. And they tried to hang out with kids who had similar characteristics in terms of their character. And of course, what happens in those environments, this is why gangs, as you know, thrive, because everybody wants to belong. Mm-hmm. And to say no to that is sometimes life-threatening. Sometimes it's life-threatening. So that's a tough one, and trying to. But I read a book years ago, Crossing the Switchblade.
Yeah, I have that on my book.
Yeah.
I have not.
Oh, you need to read it.
It was recommended by a good friend of mine.
You need to read it. David Wilkerson was the pastor. I'm going to say, might have been Nicky Cruz was the gang leader. And I have no doubt that David was led by God, because he walked into a situation where it's kind of like, David with Goliath. You're going to get smashed here. But there was something that told him, this is what I need to do. So, yeah, there are some people who are in a bad way who are reachable. And to have the courage to look through the veneer and to see, is there a heart beating in there? Is there something in there? That's a great challenge. That's the people who do that. I have so much. I coach swimmers, come from middle upper class backgrounds, but even those kids need to understand the role of character in their lives and the trajectory that it's going to allow them to go on if they're willing to. I look at research. There was a great research study. I may have talked about it before, by Dr. Fred Keel, University of Minnesota Business School, and he wanted to see if there was any correlation in business between character and financial performance. So he sent out questionnaires. His graduate students sent out questionnaires to CEOs of not-for-profits, Fortune 500, etc., asking if they'd be willing to participate in a study that showed whether there was any correlation between character and financial performance in business, where bottom line really matters. And he got enough replies back from people saying that they would be willing to participate under the, understanding that the results would be shared with business schools around the country, so that business schools would have some idea of whether they needed to talk about ethics and morality and values and things like that. So obviously, they sent out these assessments, self-assessments. And of course, when you take a self-assessment, everybody's like, yeah, I've got character. And they assess themselves, generally speaking, pretty high. And those were the results. But they also got permission to do 360s, which meant they could send questionnaires about the leaders to their subordinates, their peers, and their superiors. And instead of the curve looking like this, it looked like this. So you had some who rated themselves really high on character, but their peers and subordinates and superiors not so much. And you had an elite group on the far end who actually rated themselves lower than their peers, subordinates, and superiors. And so they teased out what were the characteristics that these exceptional CEOs had. And I use an acronym to describe those characteristics. I use the acronym RICH, but with 2 C's. And so when I talk to kids and parents, if you want to live a rich life, and you want to be rich, these are 5 things that from research you've got to have. Number 1 is responsibility. You've got to become a really responsible person. Are you making up your bed? And are you leaving that to you? Do you clean up your room? Do you help with chores around the house? Or is everything done for you? And if you make a mistake, do you own it? Do you own it? Or is that somebody else's fault? The I stands for integrity. Do the right thing. If you don't know what the right thing is, have a mentor. Ask a parent. Ask a teacher for whom you have respect. Do the right thing. These CEOs, I don't care how inconvenient it is or how uncomfortable it is, they do the right thing for their customers, for their employees, for their suppliers. They do the right thing if they possibly can. There are 2 C's. 1 stands for competency. Become really competent at something. Become really good at something. Have a skill. Have a skill that can take you somewhere. The other C stands for compassion. Care about other people less fortunate than you and do something about it. And then the H, which is hard for some guys to do, in their teen years and even later on is humility. Don't care about getting all the credit. Care about the team getting the credit. So if you want to have a rich life, be responsible, have integrity, develop competency, and continue to develop it. Have compassion for others and show up and make a difference. And then become a more humble person, caring a lot about others.
Just saw Blake Corum in the field today at the spring game.
Mm-hmm.
And all attention's on him, of course. The crowd's cheering. And the interviewer speaks to him and asks about the national championship and how it was going and progressed. And, he goes, I had faith in my team. I knew that, after that score, that our defense could. He turned on his defense. He didn't throw it on himself. Mm-hmm. And we talked about characters. And we talk about Rich, kind of almost a person that embodies those characters.
He's a rich guy.
Yeah.
He's a rich guy. And there are other guys. I think Donovan Edwards is like that. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of guys on that team like that we don't know anything about. They're behind. Some of them are not ever going to see the field maybe as a third or fourth stringer, but they're glued. They've got the glue stuff. They're rich people too.
Yeah. So when you're talking about rich, you're talking about the acronym. You're not talking about the money.
And sometimes the money comes, but that's not what you're doing if you're finding your purpose in life, the things that give you meaning. And then that'll be more important than money. If the money comes, fine. But if it doesn't, you're still fulfilled doing what gives you meaning and purpose.
Yeah, you hear the stories about these individuals get money and millions and millions of dollars, lottery winners, and they're not. Yeah. They lead empty lives. It's because they don't have, I think, the rich we talked about.
Some of them do, but that's because the money allows them to fulfill their purpose at an even broader level, and that's great. That's great.
Yeah, it was just more and more. Actually, I wasn't a big Tom Brady fan. Mm-hmm. I was a Joe Montana fan, and the names in my family.
Yeah.
But I'm listening to Tom Brady speak, ex-Michigan player, embodies the same characters. And I'm listening to talking podcast and just what he wants to make himself better all the time, but he wants to have the people around him. It wasn't about him being. It was about him getting better, but it was always to produce a better team. It seemed to be just a way in not just sports but in life.
Yeah, that's why team culture is so important. And now with the transfer portal and everything, you just see people jumping around for a lot of different reasons.
I'll get you to explain what the transfer portal is, because there might be some people that don't know what it is, and then how it is affecting sports as it is now, where it wasn't around when you were coaching.
Coaches could always leave anytime they wanted to and take a better job. And here are all the people that they recruited. Well, they're stuck. They have to sit out a year before they can transfer. The time was in the Big Ten Conference. You couldn't transfer to another Big Ten school. If you were going to leave, you had to go out of the conference. And then the NC2A got sued. And now athletes can leave too. Now, there's a portal, there's a period of time where they have to declare, and that's right now, they have to declare, I'm going to transfer. And they can go and be eligible immediately, so long as academically everything transfers to the new school and they get credit for it, so their standing stays the same. I'm going to transfer as a junior. Okay, you got junior credits if you're going to come here. Other schools, a little harder. So it's not always easy to just go anywhere you want to go. And a big effect on it, too, is the name, image, and likeness. How much money am I going to get? Most of the major schools, their athletes are receiving money up over and above their scholarships now, because schools have had to do that. So some schools, some kids are getting a lot of money, just from the school athletic revenues. Other kids are getting endorsement deals, like Caitlin Clark had a bunch of them during the year. If you're high profile and you're that visible, people want to hire you to endorse their product. So it has changed. It has changed college athletics. It's a mess right now. It's just a mess. And it's almost become, you can't ever afford to let an athlete become unhappy about anything. Because if you do, they'll transfer and go somewhere else where they can get more money. And you've got some people who are like transferring to their third and fourth school in 4 years, and you're like, what's your purpose? Are you trying to make it to the NBA, or are you trying to get $1 million, while you're an undergraduate? And the concept of deferred gratification, that's lost. That's lost. Deferred gratification, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to become the best I can in athletic, I'm going to get the best education I can, and become really, really competent at something. So down the road, I'm going to be able to build a career. That's deferred gratification. Then I'll be able to really enjoy a lot of the things in life that I would like to enjoy. That's how you become a really good athlete. Who's going to pay me what? Even recruits coming in are asking, how much am I going to get? How much can I get? And it's I think Division II and Division III, definitely Division III. That's not going on. Those schools don't have that. So that most of the kids there are education, my sport, but it's okay. College sport's going to have to do something. This can't continue. This is not sustainable.
If you were back coaching in this era, and this was a career, how would you approach this?
I wouldn't coach Division I. I absolutely would not. It's not that I'm not afraid of a challenge. I just want to have a pool of athletes to recruit from who are coming to the school because it's a good fit for them academically. And I've got an inkling of what I'd like to do after my sport time is over. And I want to go to a place where I'm going to be treated as a person. And I'm going to be on a team that has a great culture. And we're going to train well. And we're going to perform to our capabilities, if not beyond. That's the kind of person I'd like to work with. But, I don't want to deal with, people who are more concerned about their emotions than they are about more important things. Because emotions are like this, they change. You know how that is. Guy is in love, he's swimming great all year long, and then the day before the conference, his girlfriend dumps him. And then some cute girl at the beach smiles at him, and all of a sudden it's like, I think I'm feeling better. Please. We've all been there with emotions. Having kids who have a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning and some goals, but beyond just swimming fast or whatever. Those are the kind of people I want to work with. Those to me are difference makers in the really important things.
Those are the people that I think will thrive in life.
They'll never look for a job. Somebody will always want them to come work with them, for them. And a lot of those people end up working for somebody, and then they take over the business. Because the leader of the business spotted them and said, if somebody's going to take over their business, they're going to have those kind of qualities. I want them here. So a good leader will do that.
Awesome. Jim, I want to thank you for your time.
Sure.
Been a blast, as always. Third time's a charm. I'm never going to put a limit on visiting you and this conversation. So it's been really cool. I've actually had other podcasts where I've talked about you, and I've talked to the wrestling high performance director from Wrestling Canada, and I said, "Yeah, I got into the world of swimming," and he looks at me like, Because he knows my history, he knows my dad, he knows all my wrestling. He looks at me, 250-pound swimmer. I'm like, no. So I have to tell him why, and then go into it. But I tell him that, and again, like, I hope when people find this podcast, when they listen to it, it's not just about swimming. This is about leadership. It's about building a culture. It's about people.
Yep.
For those of any individuals that say, I don't want to listen to a swimming coach, come on. This is more than just.
I get it. I get that. I don't have a lot of letters after my name. I get that.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming down.
Anytime.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you for tuning into the Conceive, Believe, and Achieve podcast. I hope you found today's episode insightful and inspiring. Your support means the world to us, so don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a comment in the section below. Your feedback fuels our journey to bring you more valuable content and stories from the realm of sports. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries, believing in yourself, and achieving greatness. Thank you for listening.